Alright, welcome back. Today we are going to go over all of the 21 rainbow cards in Nine Kings as of patch 27. 3 new cards were added in patch 27, so I figured I may as well make a guide going over all 21 rainbow cards that are currently available in Nine Kings. Before we jump into what each card does, I'm going to quickly go over what the rainbow cards are and how you get them. In single player, you are typically at war with your rebellion, plus 2 other kings, and then you will make war and peace declarations with other kings throughout the game. However, 2 times before year 33, the Jack of Rainbows and his rainbow army will show up to fight you. The first time he shows up is normally around year 16, 17, and the second time he shows up is normally around year 25, 27. However, the exact years that the Jack of Rainbows shows up changes from game to game. If you beat the Jack of Rainbows, you will get a rainbow card loot event and get to pick from the 21 rainbow cards using rerolls as normal, and it will function as a typical loot event. You can also find rainbow cards in the shop and buy them from the merchant for a normal card price. If you want to increase your chance of seeing that, you can take the lucky perk in your perk tree. Rainbow cards are pretty rare in the shop, so really try to maximize what you take from the Jack of Rainbows loot events, and good luck finding rainbow cards in the shop. Also, if you want to fight the Jack of Rainbows more often, you can take the rainbow perk Lunatic. It can be your only perk in your perk tree, and you will have your Rebellion and the Jack of Rainbows as who you fight, and then you make War and Peace as normal, but then that way they are in your mix. And another way to see a lot more Jack of Rainbows is playing the Color Foe quest on quest mode, where you fight Jack Rainbows every single year. In multiplayer, you do not fight the Jack of Rainbows, but you do still get 2 of his cards throughout your 33-year run. The first one is going to happen in year 17, so at the end of year 16, you will pick your normal card from whichever king that you fought. Then after that loot event resolves, you are given a rainbow loot event to pick from the Jack of Rainbow cards as you normally would in single player. This happens again at the end of year 26, where you fight another king, get that loot event resolved, and then you get a free Jack of Rainbows card again that you pick from a normal loot event, and these are denoted in multiplayer with a little rainbow icon that is not present in single player. Also, in the latest patch, there are now only 9 cards available per season in multiplayer, and force players to use different strategies and not just use the same rainbow cards over and over again. And then at the end of each season, the 9 cards will be rotated out, so it will always be different. Now that we've gone over what the Jack of Rainbows is and how to get the cards, let's go through the 21 cards. I'm going to be going through them by card type, and first up we are going to be starting with the 3 rainbow buildings. First up is Temple. Temple says increases 9% of a random stat of a random plot. So every year, for each level you have in Temple, you'll get 9% boost to any one stat of any plot. So this could be HP, damage, movement speed, hits per second, and that stat could be different for each plot it hits if you have more than 1 level in Temple, or if you have the Overwork Royal Decree that procs your buildings an additional time. This is overall just a very good card that is going to be increasing your stats on your plots every year. Next up is Shrine. Shrine says spends 9 gold every year to level up 1 random plot. Costs 3 less gold per level. So at level 1, your Shrine will spend 9 of your gold, if able, to level up a random plot. At level 2, it will cost you 6 gold to level up a plot, and at level 3 it will only cost 3 gold to level up 1 plot per year. If you have Overwork, Shrine will proc again, so if you have a level 3 Shrine with Overwork, you can get 2 random plots upgraded for 6 gold. If you don't have enough gold, Shrine will fail and nothing will happen. This is a great way to use your gold as a resource to basically act as like buying wildcards to level your plots up. Next up is Gacha. It says when it gets to level 3, it triggers a rainbow loot event. A rainbow loot event is where you get to pick from rainbow cards, just like if you had just beat the Jack of Rainbows. Gacha functions very similarly to Concabulator. So you level it up to level 3, something happens, and then it becomes broken. If you Earthworks a broken Gacha similar to a broken Concabulator, you should get 2 regular gachas and a broken gacha, and in patch 26 you can now use regression on broken concabulators and broken gachas. So this is a great way to get more rainbow cards. Next up, let's go over the one rainbow tower that was just added, the Obelisk. It says Magic Ranged Tower. Its damage increases 9-fold every time you lose a life. So that means when you lose a life, you will get plus 800% damage added to your tower. So the way this works is at level 1, Obelisk has 1 damage. If you lost a life, then it will go to 9 damage. If you lose another life and it is at 9 damage, it will then go to 81. Then, if you want Obelisk to keep growing, you can obviously buff it with regular things such as blacksmiths, quarries, swords, or you could take the Royal Decree Rebirth to restore your lives and lose those lives again. Just remember, in single player, you have 3 lives, and in multiplayer right now, we have 5 lives. Let's just do some quick math here. If you have a level 1 Obelisk, which starts with 1 damage, and you lose a life, that turns into 9 damage. Then, if you lose another life, that becomes 81 damage. If we lose 3 lives, that turns into 729 damage. And if we lose 4 lives, that's 6,561 damage. That is a lot of damage for a level 1 Obelisk, so tread carefully with attempting to lose just to multiply this, but maybe once you lose those lives, this is a great card to really help you. I do believe this is a single target tower, so it is not an area of effect like a flamethrower, but is a single target like a scout tower. Next, let's talk about the 5 rainbow troops. First up, we have Slime. Slime says proliferating troop that multiplies itself to 1 empty adjacent plot every year. Basically, they are copying themselves to a plot they are next to, and they will have all of the same stats. They will have the same health, damage, movement speed, hits per second, crit chance, all of it. They will also carry over enchantments. They also transfer with the same number of troops, so feel free to build up those via procreates or farms before you allow them to proliferate as well. So my strategy for slime is to keep them boxed in so they do not have an adjacent plot to go anywhere, get them stronger, build up their health and their damage, and then remove whatever is blocking them or expand your kingdom so that they have somewhere to multiply after you get lots of enchantments on them or really boost their health or damage so that you just have a lot of troops. Next up is Scapegoat. It says it's a passive backline unit. If killed in battle, generates 3 gold per level. So at level 1, when 1 Scapegoat gets killed, you get 3 gold. At level 2, you get 6. And at level 3, you get 9 gold. These goats will not attack, and they will stop troops from raiding your base if they are the last units on the battlefield. Next up is Golem. It is a magic tanker. Any tome used on it has double effect. For example, if you use a sword, which typically grants 5 damage, if you use it on a golem, you will be granted 10 damage to that golem. Or if you use any of the rainbow tomes on the golem, those will also have double effect. Be careful because this also works for migration, so it will move your golems twice. So just be aware of that. Next up are ogres. Ogres are slow, strong tankers. Every year, increases all stats by 5% for each adjacent empty plot. One of the key things for ogres is that you have to own the plots adjacent to them. You can't just expand outward and expect to get a 5% stat boost for plots that you don't own that are adjacent. So if you take like an outer corner without owning either adjacent plot, you'll end up getting 0 stat boosts, which kind of defeats their whole purpose. So try to make sure you've got ogres with at least 1 plot owned adjacent to them so that you can make the most of your ogres. Honestly, having 3 or 4 empty plots surrounding your ogres, which would grant a 15 to 20% stat boost every year, really scales really fast. And they're a pretty fun troop after you get the ball rolling on getting their stats increased. And last up for the rainbow troops are replicators. The replicator says melee troop that gains 9 units every year. It replicates. So these troops are melee troops and they start with 9 troops at level 1, and every year no matter its level, you get 9 troops. This works out really well if you can put a mob plot next to them, so that when the replicators get 9 troops every year, so do any mob plots that you have next to the replicators. So this is a really great way to scale your numbers really quickly. Next up are the 11 rainbow tomes. First up is Haste. Haste says increases target's movement speed by 200%. You can use this on any plot that moves, so that includes all of your troops, plus things like Flamethrower or Mothership, and it will just increase that movement speed by 200%. Next up is Patronage. This also recently got an update. It says levels up your base plot by 3 levels, works beyond its max level. So in a regular game of 9 Kings, your max base level is 3. Once you get your base to level 3, you can use Patronage still and get your base to level 6. If you're like me and you typically take Ingenious times 3, which would grant you a max base level of 12, you can use Patronage to get your base to level 15. Then, if you get a rewind, you can play it again and get your base to level 18, even though technically your base should only be allowed to get to level 12. So this is a great way to buff your base. You can also use it before you hit your max level to like catch up to where you want to be. So if it's level 1 and you use Patronage, your base will be level 4. If you watch any of my videos, you'll know Patronage is definitely one of my favorite rainbow cards. It's very strong, and I'm very glad that they changed it so that it now works beyond your base's max level. Next up is X-Ray. X-Ray levels up all plots diagonal to the target plot, and it includes the target plot. So at max, X-Ray will level up 5 plots by 1 level. You can also not put this in the center of your base, or you can use it on plots that are already at their max level. It just won't affect them. So even if 2 of the 5 plots that are going to be affected by X-Ray or max level, you're still getting 3 level ups. So depending on your situation and how your plots are leveled in your kingdom, X-Ray may or may not be the right play for you. But it's a great way to kind of catch up and get a lot of level ups all at once. Next up is one of the new rainbow cards, Diffract. Destroys target plot, gets 2 random rainbow cards. So this is a great way to gamble and see what rainbow cards you can get out of things like broken concabulators or other plots that you want to destroy. Next up is Gigantify. Gigantify doubles the size, damage, and HP of target troop. Again, if you watch any of my videos, you'll know I love Gigantify. This scales so quickly if you can get some rewinds, or if you use it on the golems, because if you have 20 damage and you use Gigantify, it gets to 40 damage. Then if you rewind and use it again, it's at 80 damage. Then if you use it again, it's at 160. So when you can get your troops damage or HP pretty high before you start using Gigantify and then use it, it can really be a game changer. The higher a troop's damage or HP, the more you're going to get out of Gigantify. One of my favorite strategies is to use Gigantify to get the highest damage possible on a troop, and then try to get the Catharsis Royal Decree, which says that all troops on your board now have the same damage as your highest damage troop. If you get one troop's damage to like 1,000 and then get Catharsis, then suddenly everybody has 1,000 damage, and you can even Gigantify and Catharsis again. Next up is Razing. Razing destroys target plot forever, automatically triggers a Royal Council event. The Royal Council events are where you pick your Royal Decrees, and it should be noted that a raised plot does not count as empty for your ogres. If you have a raised plot next to ogres, they will not get 5% stat boost from the raised plot. So this is a great strategy if you'd rather get another Royal Council event and can sacrifice a plot, but it really depends on if you're willing to give up a plot space or not, as you're never able to get that plot back. Next up is Randomfy. Plot becomes any other card of the same type, doubling its current stats. So Randomfy will work on any plot, including your base. I want to stress this to you, that changing your base is not always helpful and can be very detrimental. If you have Royal Council decrees that are boosting your base because of what that base is, and you change it with Randomfy, then that will no longer work on your base. So King of Nothing has a Royal Decree that says that your castle now shoots fireballs. Well, if you randomfy your base, it's no longer a castle, and so you don't have a castle, and it's not going to shoot fireballs. For King of Blood, he has a royal decree that doubles the number of ghosts spawned from your pagoda. Well, if you randomfy your base and you no longer have a pagoda, then you don't have any ghosts to spawn. So just be careful with that, but it does work with towers, support buildings, and troops. So it's nice though that it doubles current stats. So if you have a troop with 20 health and 20 damage, whenever it gets turned into another troop, that troop will have 40 damage and 40 health. This is a very situational card that it could be helpful, but sometimes if you already have a really good board and layout and have some synergies going, be really careful with Randomfy. Sometimes it works out and sometimes you don't get what you want. Next up is Osmosis. All plots of the same card as the target plot get plus 10% to all stats. So this includes damage, HP, movement speed, hits per second, crit chance, for all plots that share the same card as the one that you apply Osmosis to. So if you have 5 plots of mercenaries and use Osmosis on one, all of them will get 10% of their respective stats added to their respective plots. Next up is Balance. Target's HP and damage are now equal to whichever is higher. This was added earlier this year and I really enjoy using Balance. This is another one that pairs really well with Catharsis. Here's 2 examples. The first one is you have another plot on your board with 8,000 damage, let's say. You get Catharsis and apply that to another troop. They now have 8,000 damage. Let's say they only have 50 health. Well, you go and get Balance, use it on that plot that has 8,000 damage but 50 health, and now they have 8,000 health. Another situation you could use it is if you have like forests buffing a plot's health, then you can use Balance on them, and let's say they have 8,000 health, now you use Balance, and now they'll have 8,000 damage. So then if you get Catharsis after that, then you have a plot with 8,000 damage because you had 8,000 health, and you use Balance, and now all of your troops get 8,000 damage. Anyway, Balance is a very strong card to quickly increase your HP or damage on a troop. Next up is Echoform. Duplicates target plot and all of its stats to one empty adjacent plot. So the adjacent plot that it picks is random. If it has multiple options, it will just pick one. If you use Echoform on a troop, it will duplicate that plot, so you will get another plot with the exact same amount of troops, all of their enchantments, their damage, hits per second, health, movement speed, and crit chance. It will all be the exact same, and it will just be one plot over. So if you have a really strong troop plot, you might want to Echoform it. Alternatively, you could use this on a tower, and it would duplicate its damage, crit chance, and hits per second. Like you have an exact copy, it also copies the level. So overall, it's a very good card if you have something really strong or if you quickly need to add strength to your plots. And last up is Unify. Sacrifices all troops adjacent to target. Target plot gains the number of units sacrificed. So if you have a plot of 10 troops and it is adjacent to only one other troop plot, which also has 10 troops, then when you highlight, then you will want to unify and select the plot that you want to keep, that you want more numbers of. Once you use Unify, the 10 troops that are not the troop that you picked will be absorbed. Their quantity of troops will be absorbed by the plot that you picked. And the last rainbow card we have to look at is the new rainbow enchantment, Smite. It says every time the unit takes a hit, a laser deals plus 10% of its damage to a random enemy. So the way I read this is if you have a troop with 10 damage and 1 stack of Smite, when that unit gets hit by an enemy, that enemy will get lasered and take 1 damage because that's 10% of 10. If you have multiple stacks of Smite, let's say you have 3 stacks of Smite, I would assume that when that enemy gets hit, if it has 10 damage, then that enemy would take 3 damage. As you can see here, it gets pretty chaotic with all the damage pop-ups, but you can really see these rainbow lasers pop down from the sky and strike the enemies when your troops take damage. So I highly recommend putting this on your like tinker units that are going to live a longer time and get their damage up so that they can get hit multiple times and smite your enemies. And with that, that's all 21 rainbow cards that are released as of patch 27. And since the game is in early access, I assume that they will continue to add new rainbow cards as time goes on. But I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was very helpful seeing all of the rainbow cards and what they do. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop a like and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new Nine Kings content. And as always, thanks for watching.